Welcome back into the Rowdy Studio. I'm Stephen Levine, sitting alongside Thomas Vandervoort, talking a little NASCAR racing. And our good buddy Jeff Owens on Sporting News has written this article about the risers and fallers in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Let's take a look at three such individuals. Perhaps the biggest riser of 2012, Martin Truex Jr.
Well, Martin Truex Jr. has to be one of the biggest risers because he struggled last year and has struggled at Michael Waltrip Racing. In fact, his whole career has been up and down, but he's shown enough flashes of talent where you just thought if he could just get in the right situation, he could deliver, and now he's proving that he can. He looked very strong at Texas. Didn't have the car to win it at the end of the day, but for a lot of the weekend, looked like he might be one of the guys to beat. And he's been consistent this year, and that's what's been missing.
I think what this shows you is that talent can only overcome equipment, but so much. Because look what Michael Waltrip Racing did starting, I think, last summer. They rebuilt an entire fleet.
They blew it up, man. It's just like a team.
They put money
rebuilding
into an entirely new fleet. They brought in Scott Miller as director of competition. They, of course, have this new engine effort with TRD, Toyota Racing Development. Mark Martin, Clint Boyer. They really changed the culture and the face of that organization, and Martin Truex Jr. has benefited perhaps more than anybody else in that regard. And don't forget that this is a contract year for Napa, and so the pressure is really on, and Martin Truex Jr. so far is answering that pressure.
Yeah, and you like the chemistry with Chad Johnson, you know.
Ocho Cinco?
Yeah, or Cinco Seis or whatever we're calling him.
I'm not sure how you call this guy a riser. I don't know how much further he can rise. Is Greg Biffle, according to Jeff Owens.
He's been first in the points for, what, 5 weeks now. And so you say to yourself, well, can he be a riser? Absolutely he can, because what he showed at Texas was the ability to go out and win races and to beat Jimmy Johnson when Jimmy Johnson looked like he was at his best.
Well, I think that's key. Not only did Greg Biffle win that race, but he had to take it away from Jimmy Johnson.
That's right.
It's not that Jimmy Johnson, you know, gave it away or they made some mistake or Jimmy Johnson lost the handle. Greg Biffle went and took it from Jimmy Johnson, and I think that's key.
And not only that, but winning a race with Matt Pucia. Again, they had to rebuild their team last year. Getting rid of Greg Irwin, bringing in Matt Pucia to be Biffle's crew chief. They didn't make the chase. So you had to wonder, is this really a team that's going to stick around, you know, in its current form? And the way they came out of the gate this year, they have come out of the gate this year, has proven that, yeah, we're ready to compete for a championship. I mean, Greg Biffle has won in trucks. He's won in Nationwide. If he were to capture a Cup championship, he would be the only guy ever to do that. Right now, he looks like he'll be in the mix.
Right, and he was also the third wheel at Roush Fenway, and now he is sort of, you know, taken his rightful place alongside Matt Kenseth and Carl Edwards as a leader on that team. Now, we got to talk about fallers. Who did you want to talk about?
Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yeah, Joe Gibbs Racing. Clearly, they are off. Clearly, they still have some sort of quality control issues that have plagued them for the past several seasons. They are not competing with Hendrick Motorsports. They are not competing with Roush Fenway. I even think they're not competing with Michael Waltrip Racing at this point.
Well, I would say this. It's not really time to panic yet.
Well, I didn't advocate panic.
Well, you look pretty panicky over there.
What do you mean? What do you mean I look panicky?
Just simmer down. They are a tick-off. But I think if you look at the results that they've had so far, you know, Denny's had some good races, 10th in Texas. That's not where he wants to be at Texas, right? But it's still not horrible. So and the same thing with Kyle and the same thing with Joey Logano. I think in the points, Denny is what, 6th? And Joey is 13th and Kyle is 14th, something like that. They're really in the mix. It's early in the season, but you have to acknowledge we're not where we want to be right now with our equipment. And so they've got to work some things out. There have been a lot of changes over at JGR2, and they're probably still in the middle of this process. You know, last year we saw with Michael Waltrip Racing, we couldn't see the progress. Well, now we're seeing it. And I think the question is how long before we see the fruits of the labor that's gone on at JGR.
I don't know, man. Joey Logano, I've said from the beginning, is in a lame duck season. So for him to be 13th, that's really strong for the 20 car. But to have Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch not being competitive, not running for race wins.
Denny won a race already.
He won a race at Phoenix, yes. Yeah. But Kyle Busch has not challenged for a win. And Denny Hamlin, other than that Phoenix race, has not challenged for a win. That's not where you expect those two guys to be and not where they need to be. We're 7 races in. We're a quarter of the way into the season.
They're not that far off. And they're really not that far out of the points. And Denny's in 6th. So as long as you take the intervening rest of the season before you get to the end of it, they're going to be in the mix for the chase. They've got plenty of time to get their equipment right, and it's not that far off. Now, are they off? Yes, I think they're off. I just don't think it's a lot.
A little bit in NASCAR Sprint Cup racing is miles.
Look, I'm not saying they're going to figure it out.
It's a chasm.
But don't be surprised if they figure it out the next 4 or 5 weeks.
Not a crevice.
Don't be surprised.
But a chasm.
Look, when we get to Richmond, if Denny wins a race, you going to be surprised?
I am not going to be surprised if Denny wins at Richmond. Okay. I'll be less surprised if Kyle...
Look, Denny and Kyle could be running for that win very easily. So don't freak out.
I won't freak out. But after Richmond, if they are not in the mix at Richmond, then I think we've got serious issues.
Could be.
All right. For Tom Vandervoort, I'm Stephen Levine. Thanks for watching.